Welcome YouTube. I'm the Period Woodworker. I wanted to invite you to a quick tour of my property and my home and mostly my workshop. I wanted to start it off by taking a look at the home that I recently purchased when I got transferred to this area. My wife and I always liked the Colonial Williamsburg area. We visited there quite often every year. And when we got the opportunity to purchase a similar reproduction colonial home, we did so. The problem that I have is that since my last home was not this style, none of my furniture goes with it, and I find myself in need of making some period reproduction furniture. And I'm going to try to do that in my workshop, which is located in this detached two-car garage. We're going to go take a tour of the shop, and I'll see you inside. Okay, YouTube, this is my shop. This would be the entrance to it. You're immediately going to notice that there is a huge amount of lumber in this shop. Obviously, I have more lumber than I should have to be stored within the shop. That leads me to a project for the summer where I've got to build a building to put all this lumber in. This is a pile of 4/4 and 8/4 cypress that I picked up at Steve Wall's. I'm going to be making some different shutters for the house. I've got a lot of lumber over in this area, a lot of really nice, not used often lumber. We have a rack that I keep scraps on. Area that we'll come back to later, I have just a handy little supply of some really special wood, some exotics, some expensive stuff. The biggest amount of lumber that I have is over in this corner, which I really could use for some other stuff. There is a pile of walnut, a whole lot of cherry, a little bit of some oak and cedar and some different things like that. Here I've got a little stash of some very special wood that I've sliced when wet or just however, and I've turned it into lumber. And I use that every now and then. Now let's take a look at some of the things here in the shop, if we can get around all of the lumber. This is my assembly table, and also just an area that I use to do some business. For personal use, I've got a computer and a few things over there. I also occasionally do some work at home at my regular job, and I'll do this in here. It makes a great assembly table. As you can see, it's some massive commercial 1 3/4 inch oak doors that I've got laying on some old steel case desk and 2-drawer file cabinets. They're just laying there. They're so heavy they've never gone anywhere. I actually spent a lot of time when I installed them making sure that it was level, because after all I do use it as an assembly table. Some of the other things I've got, you can see I've got a lot of shelving. I brought a lot of stuff with me when I moved to this house, so I haven't had to have a place to put it. I've got some user woodworking planes, that type of stuff. A lot of other tools and things like that that I save up in there that I use all the time. Some wooden planes. I do a little veneering, so I've got some shelves with a lot of veneer. We'll probably be doing some of that later on. I have about a I guess it's a 7-8 foot Joburg woodworker's vise that I picked up at Woodcraft when they were making the switch from this end vise to a different style. I was pretty lucky to get this. I got it pretty cheaply. I do most of my woodworking there. This area, I've got a 14-inch Delta bandsaw that I keep it pretty well tuned up. I just put new urethane tires on them. They were kind of expensive, but makes all the difference in the world. Here's a area that I do some sharpening at. I've got a little 7-inch ball-door bench grinder that is just excellent. Does a great job. This area, you can see I've got a 20-inch wood-fast lathe. I bought this several years ago. I don't even know if you can buy them anymore. I don't know why. It's an excellent lathe. I think it's out of Australia or something like that. But I do some wood turning. We may actually get in and remount this smaller lathe. I feel very happy to have that. It's a Myford M8 woodworking lathe. I consider it to be probably the best small woodworker's lathe that they ever made. It's got Timken roller bearings and all the bells and whistles. We'll take a look at that later on. I've also got a floor stand on wheels Delta planer. I've got an 8-inch Delta, I believe it was a DJ20 planer. Jointer. I believe this is the one they came out with a couple years ago, the X5. It's still the DJ20, which has always been, I think, their flagship 8-inch joiner. It's an excellent joiner. It does a lot of good work. Over here, because of all of the excess wood that I have until I can build a building to store it, I've had to put some of the lesser frequently used tools in this area. I've got a nice little Performax 16x32 sander that does very good work. I do use it a lot, so I have to roll it out. A Delta drill press. I've got a Jet 12-inch and also a 6x48 belt sander. It's a very powerful tool. It runs very fast. You need to know what you're doing when you work on that. And finally, my pride and joy is probably a 60-year-old Delta Unisaw. I bought this in the late 80s, and at that time it was supposed to be 40 or 50 years old. I've had it refurbished. I put a 3-horsepower motor on it, redid some of the bearings, gave it a paint job, and a lot of tender loving care. I'd put this Delta Unisaw up against any of the current cabinet saws that are on the market today. It's just an excellent saw. Alright YouTube, it's been a great initial video. I'll be back with the part 2 tomorrow or the next day, and we're going to go over a lot of the projects that we're going to take on the air this year, and to give you a more in-depth look at the shop and the things that we do in the shop. So thank you for joining in. YouTube, do good work. Make yourself happy. Thanks for joining me.